Hello, good afternoon. Hi, Rashmi. How are you doing today?
Hi, Shvangi. Thank you for having me here. I'm excellent. How are you
Fantastic.
doing?
It's fantastic. I am really very, very happy to inaugurate, I think, the 2021 series of phenomenal founder conversations with you. It's something I started already last year, and I have been interviewing founders like you, inspirational women who are on this journey of founding their own business, and also an initiative which is supporting women worldwide typically, right? Which has a global imprint, even if they might start in a nation or a community. So I'm super, super keen to understand much more about your journey around this. Tell me about what made you start, this particular, I know that you are a repeat founder, but speak to me about inari.org. What made you start this particular initiative?
Oh, that's a fantastic question to start with because I think I've done this is my fourth venture, fourth venture, and I think this is closest to my heart because I was looking for my ikigai, my purpose. I believe that all of us are born with one. And while I had three successful ventures back to back, something inside was not happy. I was looking for my rightful place in the world, and I wanted to do something which would leave a lasting impression, which would help me leave my legacy behind, which would help me help other women. I've always believed that talking about women empowerment is meaningless, but some of us have to go out and do something about it. And Inari actually gave me this opportunity, right? So in 2019 October, I actually quit from two of my ventures, which were doing very well, and I still continue to hold stake in both the companies, but I moved out of operations just to figure out my ikigai. And for the first few months, honestly, it was very disconcerting because when you're working for a long time, you kind of become obsessed about working, and that's all you do. Your identity starts stemming from there. So which I also realize is not necessarily a good thing, but that's the way it was back then. And so I was looking from one thing to another, trying to figure out what to do. And then COVID happened, and we actually got a chance to disconnect, all of us. I used to say that I wish the world would stop and I'd get a chance to get off. The world did stop. All of us did get a chance to get off. And I think that helped me really go inside and ask myself, what are the things that people come to me for? And the answer was very clear. People reached out to me when they didn't want to take medicines and when they were unhealthy or they were not well. That was the seed for the idea for Inari, .org, or Inari, the femtech platform that I'm very soon launching.
Thank you for that, Rashmi. And it's fascinating, right? Because we have, I think, all pivoted into finding our own ways of redefining ourselves. And it's fascinating to listen to that story. Speak to me a little bit about, what makes this venture different. You have mentioned a couple of times the whole notion of ikigai, right? And maybe some of our listeners and audience know what that is, but what does it mean for you? What does it mean for you? What is this ikigai? Yeah. What is it that makes this venture different for you?
So ikigai is really a Japanese concept, and there are many versions of it. But to me, it means figuring out what you're born for, what you're meant to do, because that comes naturally to you. I think if you look at the entire world, in fact, the balance is kind of tipping towards the masculine. And while I'm not against it, we've all been there, right? We sometimes have to behave in a certain way because that's how patriarchy has unfortunately been. But I've also believed that when we do something which we are very comfortable in our, in our own skin, it just comes more naturally to us. For me, I think it started off with coaching and, just being able to mentor people on various things. It was with entrepreneurship, it was with digital marketing, with education. But the idea was to be able to make a difference to the world. And I think that's what gave me joy. So when I could help someone, even in the slightest bit, that's what gave me joy. And it doesn't matter what else I did, know how many awards I received, how many places I traveled. It was every single time when I'd help someone, I'd get this this immense amount of joy, At the same time, I knew that I was not one of those people who just give away everything that I had and say that, here, this is my version of helping people. That wasn't there for me. So just to figure that bit out, that even if you're helping someone, there could be so many different ways of doing it. And for me, I was very clear that it has to do with women. That I was very clear about. So figuring out this ikigai or this purpose was the journey. And that's what I spoke about earlier, right? So this purpose, particular venture is different because here I'm getting the opportunity to do that. Everything else until now was about making money, was about putting myself out there for the external world. This I feel is more for myself. While it affects the world in a much larger way, it has been a more personally enriching journey.
Fascinating, right? There is so much narrative at the moment in terms of people speaking about, my purpose versus, what I need to bring to the world. What am I passionate about as compared to how the world can benefit from that, and bringing all of those, let's say mental models, but also the more emotional being or the emotional energy around all of that together, right? What helped you in identifying that? I mean, one of the things you said was that the whole world shut down, so you could just go inside. But was there any specific ritual, any process, any routine that really helped you to center yourself and to focus on? I mean, there are so many terms for that, right? One of the latest one I heard, which comes from, the Hinduism lens, is called Swadharma, which is like, what is my own religion, right? What is something that is a part of me that sometimes even I'm not aware of, but it is integral to me. It's so much that I embody it and it embodies me, but I may be not aware of that. And then we try and search for everything else as compared to what comes naturally to us, right? So I'm curious to know from your end, what helped you to identify that for yourself?
Two things. One is very similar to what you're talking about. I have this tattoo here. It means the here and now. It is there to remind me of mindfulness. So I think when I mentioned the COVID bit, I think this is what really happened, where I was not just talking about it, but where I was living in the moment, one after the other. We didn't know what was going on, right? But I think the second thing was actually a lot more helpful. And so for the last 20-25 years, I make it a practice to learn something new every year. And it's just my way of, growing. And and I make sure that it's got nothing to do with my work. So if I'm in the femtech industry, I'll make sure that if I'm learning something new, it'll have nothing to do with femtech or nothing to do with health for that matter. In the last 20 years, like I said, I was learning different things. And therefore you pick up these smaller, big things. Health and nutrition is something that I had picked up over the last 7-8 years because of my, like I said, of this whole urge to learn something new. So that is, the certification happened a few years ago. And therefore, without realizing, I had skilled myself in another thing. So sometimes what happens is when we are so caught up in our professional worlds and in our personal worlds, and our hobbies, and we're consistently doing those things, I think it stops us from rediscovering ourselves. So I think this opportunity of not doing anything else plus having picked up those skills, I think it was a combination of these two that really helped me get onto this path.
Fantastic. Rashmi, tell us about Inari.org. What is your vision with this platform? What is your vision with this community of women that you're connecting? And what are you really trying to bring to the world, for women especially?
I'll just say this in one line, really. PMS and period cramps are considered to be, normal, but they are common, not necessarily normal. What I want to really do is be able to contribute to a world or help build a world where there is no PMS, where there are no period cramps. So in essence, with Inaari.org or with the platform, all I'm trying to do is help women, connect back with their inner energy and, learn to balance their hormones. So when we learn to do that, we are in harmony with ourselves again, and that just helps everything, whether it's mental health, whether it's physical health. I think we become whole and we become complete and we become joyous, from within. So that's my goal with Inari.
That is really a very inspiring goal. I know that you are also a health coach. Would you like to share with us one of your recent successes? I know that there are quite a few. Something that really you felt very touched with around supporting someone, because of course that is at the foundation of everything you do with Inari.
Yeah. So there's this one incident, and without naming names, I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. There was this 25-year-old woman who reached out from a region called Punjab, to me last year. It was about, I think, 5 months ago. And she was diagnosed with PCOD. Very, very, very cute little girl, very smart. But she suddenly had all these cystic acne on her face. She had hair growth on her back, on her chin, on her chest. And when she came to me, she was already seeing an endocrinologist. She was seeing a dermatologist. She was going to a gynec. She was going to a nutritionist. And she had medicines coming from all directions. And so here's the thing, right? So her family wanted to get her married. So she was under a lot of pressure to look good, and she was feeling overwhelmed. She was literally in tears when she came to me, and she had seen some of the videos on the Instagram channel for Inari, and that's how she reached out to me. And when we spoke, I told her, I said, listen, I would suggest that you don't stop with the endocrinologist because, obviously they understand hormones and it's important for you to continue. But then we started this journey for about 5 months where I taught her how to fast, basis her menstrual cycle, how to tweak her nutrition, her exercise, and also, how you feel about yourself. So for a woman, that changes through the month. Most of us don't realize it, but our menstrual cycles also, kind of let us go out and inward. So there's the first half of the cycle is more outward focused, and then the second half of the cycle is more inward focused. So I helped her through all of this. And at the end of 5 months, when she had her reports and she went back to the doctor, he said that, I think you never had PCOD. So what we had done was in 5 months, we had reversed it together, and hats off to her because I think she was really, really diligent. But they say that PCOD can't be reversed. But here's an incident where I have seen it with my own eyes where we managed to reverse it. And I think the joy of having made that difference to someone's life, to have truly made a difference, I don't think anything that I have done ever will, beat that joy. And I think that has been my biggest achievement so far.
Oh my God, I think that is such a phenomenal story. And I know that you actually shared a glimpse of that in this women's group that we are a part of. Tell me a little bit about your journey around, what you envisaged Inari to be, what you planned it to be, how you think the journey would go as compared to what is happening in reality, right? And how the journey is going. And also speak a little bit about your vision around it, not today, but maybe 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Yeah. What do you see happening?
It's a very good question, because when I started off with Inari, the idea was, I hate admitting it now, but I'm going to do it anyway. The idea was to build a platform which would help women lose weight. Okay, now seems so superficial and so meaningless, but losing weight without imbalancing their hormones. So that bit was always very clear, that I wanted to help women, balance their hormones. That was very, very clear from the beginning. But what happened was, we are part of the same, this group of women right now. What had happened was that I had announced on that group that let's fast together. And that was my way of sharing, something that I believed in, saying that, okay, let's do it together. And the group was formed. And I ended up creating these personalized plans for almost 40 people. And that was a lot of work, but I generally, there was nothing that I was expecting in return. I thought that, okay, there are these women who are almost like friends now, who I know and who need this help with their health journeys, and why should I not do it? So one day I sat down and I just announced it. And then I realized that I had taken up so much work, but it was extremely satisfactory because you're suddenly talking to individuals. And in that, in working on those personal plans for these 40 women, I realized that, I realized what the challenges really were. Because until then, I was just thinking of it from my own lens. And yes, I've had those experiences because I'm also a woman and I've spoken to close friends. But when I found out that there were these 40 women who had different set of challenges because their circumstances were different, their backgrounds were different, their work scenarios were different, there were different age groups, there were different socioeconomic backgrounds, the family support was different. The kind of questions that started coming in, the kind of beliefs that they came from, they were all very different. And I realized that there were a lot more questions related to to the mental well-being. There were questions about migraines. There were questions which I had not thought of, and that helped me realize that it's not just about weight loss. There's so much more to it, and it helped me actually work back on my product. The platform, the app that we're working on. So the algorithms were changed, the journeys were changed. We focus a lot more on the gut microbiome, the immunity. Of course, immunity was because of COVID. That was also there, but when these questions started coming in, I realized that the shape of my platform itself had changed. So the biggest learning was really, therefore, that if you have a focus group where you are talking to live clients and working with them on a day in and day out basis, and of course I was very, very involved. That group is now called the Sisterhood, and it's become a community where women support each other. And forget just health. We have discussions from Korean drama to fashion to everything else. It's become such a wonderful community of, like I said, women supporting each other and learning from each other. And that has also become my place to go and ask for feedback, to ask for suggestions, to say that, hey, this is what I'm doing. What do you think of it? And I get very candid feedback, which has made me learn as an individual. Of course, from a business perspective, it has really tweaked the way we are looking at stuff. Coming back to your second half of the question, what is the vision? I think this community is what I'd like to make bigger and larger. I think women don't have a platform to talk about these intimate problems. We don't talk about our menstrual cramps. We don't talk about how much did we bleed, or what color was the blood that we bled, because those things are considered to be taboo. And even though we are educated and we might go out and say that these things should not be taboo, how many people do actually talk about this stuff? Right? We don't really go out and talk about this stuff. There's no place for us to talk about it safely. You feel conscious. Similarly, people don't talk about whether they're having sex in their married lives or not. And you'd be surprised at some of the insights that come out, because whether we like it or not, these are things that affect our mental well-being and our physical well-being as well. So I want to also be able to create this community where women can connect with each other on these issues without any hesitation. So that's the second bit that I think would be added to the platform.
No, simply amazing. I'm just sharing, your amazing platform with Instagram and all this, richness of, let's say, videos and content that you keep sharing there. I mean, I'm reminded of somebody saying that fasting or intermittent fasting is for the body, what meditation is for the mind, right? And I think that I have you to thank, definitely, to introduce me, at least to keep me a bit more consistent about fasting as compared to what I started. And I feel very happy, proud, and also very connected to this to the Inari sisterhood that you have created, right? Which of course is a small community at the moment, and really everything that you have mentioned, it's really a need, right? And I feel sometimes also so privileged that there is a community where you can speak and you can ask about questions that really mean something to you without the fear of being judged, without the fear of, like you said, you could talk about anything, right? Be it a date or polyamory or divorce or multiple partners. I mean, it can be anything. And most of the times, these are the conversations that, like you said, we tend to have with a very small group of our friends. And the data points are extremely limited, right? But as soon as you have this, even with a group of, let's say, 40, 50 women, potentially 100 women, you really see the experiences and you learn so much from how somebody else is dealing with that, right? So what you have started is definitely a movement, that I hope only grows. Tell us a little bit about your motivation, Rashmi. How is it that, tell me a little bit about your favorite podcast, or, one of the things that you've read recently which really resonated with you.
Okay, so I think one of the things that keeps me going is just new things. Really, I try to find out new stuff, connecting with people. Those are the things that give me energy, really. But in terms of what motivates me and my own time, I think you were asking this question earlier as well. Waking up first thing in the morning, I am an early riser. 5 a.m. is when I wake up. And those first few hours in the morning, when they're quiet, when you have no interruptions, there's no phone pinging away, there's nobody else around the house, it's quiet. I think that's a brilliant time for introspection. You're also fresh up, in the morning, right? So I think that for me, that time is very special. It helps me connect with myself. and it helps me connect so much more with work because there's absolutely zero clutter. In terms of books, I've always been a voracious reader, but there's one book which I think all women should read. It's called Women Who Run with the Wolves. It's a book written by Clarissa, I forget her last name. Clarissa Pinkola. I think that's the name. I'm sorry, but I don't remember the. Yeah, just put it on the channel. So that the book she covers 25 different tales, but the crux of it is for women to kind of connect back with their own intuition. And what she's doing is essentially comparing you to a wolf and saying that, and it's not like all women are like that, but some of us are a little wilder than the others. And this is about going back into your raw inner self, and irrespective of what the society is asking you to do, or irrespective of what the norms are. And for me, this is one book every single time that I read, I go back and read, it just has a new meaning because probably I have grown a little bit more to understand what the author is trying to say. So some of these things I keep going back, and I think reading has been wonderful for me. That has always given me insights. Travel is the other thing that I really love. I think I love going to on solo travels, and I think again, especially for women, I think solo travel is a gift that you give yourself because you just rediscover yourself again and again. Every single time that you go, you find a new dimension to yourself. With podcasts, my latest is philosophy, so I'm listening to philosophy classics, and like I said again, it gives you perspective to larger things, to bigger things, and that's where my motivation really comes from.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Rashmi. It's been wonderful to speak with you. I'd love to know, for everybody who's listening to us, how can they participate? How can they actually become a part of that community? And what can they do, which is maybe quicker, but maybe which can be more long-ended and deeper? What are the options that you have?
So honestly, one can go to the website. It's www.inari.org. And there are several options of, being able to just see the videos there, or, download the app and so on and so forth. Of course, if they want a deeper intervention, they could just reach out to us. The email ID or the contact details are there on the website as well. They could reach out to us and we can make a customized plan for them depending on their goals, especially for women who are dealing with hormonal imbalance or weight management issues. I think we can definitely help them. That's what we're trying to do.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. It's been really inspirational, as expected, to speak with you. I also wanted to bring to our audience actually the fact that as Thrive with Mentoring, we are soon going to be partnering with Impact Hub Basel to launch a women entrepreneurship journey. It's something that we call Empower Her. So instead of empower, it's Empower Her. and then you will have hopefully contact with entrepreneurs like Rashmi and many more who are, taking this very feminine approach and not following the narrative that is prevalent in the startup ecosystem, right? Our focus is going to be much more on looking at women and not just their outer journey in terms of identifying what is your minimum viable product and getting your funding and whatever, but also the inner journey, which, like you said, and also maybe what you alluded to with the book, that I think we all have in some way. My writing teacher, her name is Natalie Goldberg, she actually speaks about something called as the wild mind, right? And the wild mind, I think, is somehow, if we can access the intelligence of that wild mind, right? Of that inner wolf, we are able to create something which will be very unique to us and which will be usually very empowering for the rest of the world. So it is our hope that with Empower, we are able to support women on this journey. You can write to us at hello@thrivewithmentoring.com to find out much more. And if you'd like to get involved as a mentor, as a mentee, as a speaker with this initiative, which will be hopefully launched in a few months from now, we'd love to hear from you. Well, thank you again, Rashmi, for your time and for your energy. And I look forward to keeping in touch with you and being a part of Inari.
Thanks so much for having me here. It was really an honor talking to you, Shivangi.
Thank you. Take care. Bye for now.
Bye.